Tim, well, indeed, it's like yesterday that you were sitting in the back row of my MBA classroom.
True.
Yeah, in the meantime, it is 15
I didn't
years,
skip
actually.
classes.
Yeah, no, you didn't. In the meantime, so much has happened. You co-founded argenx, and what a journey it has been. In the meantime, Bell 20 company, market cap of whopping 17 billion, I checked. And indeed, the past year has been really remarkable with the FDA approval of Vyvgart, a launch that went successful. What I'm really interested in hearing, because this means that argenx is turning from an R&D company also into a commercial company. What does that do for the organization?
It was a key question we had as co-founders. My two co-founders are in the room, and I think they will remember that management meeting back in 2017 when we saw the idea to go to market ourselves instead of just handing over the keys of the car to Big Pharma, which is the traditional model, right?
Exactly.
And one of the concerns was we're going to lose the spirit, the DNA of the company, because we're science-based, data-based, it's an R&D company. And I think we came out of the meeting realizing that in rare diseases, and that's where we play, you know, it's orphan rare diseases. It's not a numbers game. I mean, it's not a share of voice in the market, which is important. What is important actually is the quality of the touch points you have with the physicians and the patients. So we thought we could be successful marketing from the science and selling from the data. And to my delight, that is exactly what is happening. We have an equal amount of scientists, medical people in the field as we have sales reps. And when they call on the physicians and they talk about the science and the biology and the data of the company, that is actually driving the launch of the product and the sales of the product. So that is, I think, an important revelation. The other thing which is happening is we have now patients which are addressing the scientists in the company. Mm-hmm. And that is such a powerful dynamic. I remember the first time we had an MG, a myasthenia gravis
the patient is really real.
It's real. I mean, we had a chairwoman of the MGFA, the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation of America, addressing through a video message all the scientists. You know, the only thing these guys had seen was a mouse, right? Mm-hmm. And now suddenly there's this patient, and she spoke about her life, you know, what she suffered as an MG patient, the poor medication she was on today, and you could hear a pin drop on the floor. Mm-hmm. And she urged the scientists at the end of the video message to hurry, because she did not want young women being diagnosed today with myasthenia gravis to have the same fate as she actually had to undergo. And the power of a patient talking to the scientists, that is fantastic. That is incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine it's super powerful. You mentioned the spirit of the company. You know, the name argenx as well is linked to the story of the Argonauts. I know you as well. You know, you said, you know, entrepreneurship is really it's a team sport. You know, it's not about the individual. You co-founded argenx with your co-founders Hans de Haart and Thorsten Dyer, who are here indeed in the room. Tell us a little bit about that collaborative spirit and that, you know, idea of entrepreneurship as a team sport and how you implement that in the culture of argenx.
So going back to the theme of tonight, I think it's pretty lonely if you're a single person trying to create something from scratch, you know, by being an entrepreneur. By the way, I do not believe in the myth of the individual entrepreneur in the garage, right? Maybe it existed one day in the past. It certainly does not exist today. In the complex and fast-moving world we live in, there's nothing which can beat a complementary team which is standing shoulder to shoulder. So I personally had the courage to jump because I had two co-founders, you know, which were jumping with me. And we had been working together for about 6 years. We knew we could be successful together, and we knew how we would react in times, you know, which would be tough. And that I think is very powerful. And going back to the theme of the investors, the investment community, they invest in people, because in the beginning, you know, there's just a business plan with hardly any data, hardly any evidence it can work. So what did they really invest in? In our case, I think they really invested in the team of founders.
The theme of this evening that Ralph brought, of fear, fake, and failure. Francesca already mentioned it. There must have been also failures along the way. You talk about optionality. What exactly does that mean, and how do you implement that?
I think it's important that you know that half of your business plan will not work, or whatever scenario play you do, 50% is just not going to work. And therefore, I think it is important that you create options. So you're not tied to one solution or one product or one service. You have optionality, and then basically, depending on what the market tells you or the data tell you, you can invest in the winning option and forget about the other options. What is a very dangerous situation, I think, is if your company becomes a binary situation. You know, there's only one option left, then it is make or break, and I think that's really scary. Having an option portfolio, I think, is your best insurance policy against uncertainty. And dealing with failure is part of life in R&D in an R&D company. And maybe one advice to the audience is to adopt the mindset of the scientist, which is you're doing an experiment. The experiment will yield data. There are no good or bad data. There will be a data point you can basically navigate by. Is it emotionally tough when your winning experiment fails? Yes, it is. I would be lying if I would be saying that would not be a big disappointment.
And that has been part of the journey as well, because from the outside it looks like, smooth sailing.
From the outside it all looks like, it was planned, it was all pre-programmed and only successful. On the inside, in the internal kitchen, you see as many failures as you see successes.
So that theme of this evening does resonate with you. You also talked about how you knew each other before you started the company. Indeed, I remember when you were a student, an MBA student at Vlerick. I think you still worked for, I don't know, P&G or Ablings?
Ablings,
yeah,
yep,
indeed.
we were all
I
at
think
Ablings.
that was that era. How does corporate life compare to the entrepreneurial life? What is for you the main distinction?
If I look back at my own career, I think I have always tried to live close to entrepreneurs, but you only realize that, when you're somewhat advanced in your career. When I was a student, I was getting very close to Professor Verstraeten here in Ghent. That was not a professor, that was an entrepreneur. He was disguised as a professor, in P&G, I realized...
And we have professors who are disguised as clowns.
Exactly. In P&G, I was very close to a person who was actually an intrapreneur. I mean, he was creating businesses all the time, and I loved it. And then ultimately, I joined Ablings to witness an entrepreneur, as close as I could. I would have taken any job there, as long as I could be close to the person and learn by observing and participating. So I would definitely go for the entrepreneurial path. The big benefit, though, of big corporations is they have time to invest in people. So when I look back at my training at P&G, my management training, it would be difficult to do the job I'm doing today without any of that management training. It goes back to the business school too. I mean, no matter how entrepreneurial you are, in today's world, you need to be equipped with certain skills, knowledge, etc., in order to be able to do the job. So it gives you the confidence, it equips you to then make the jump and do actually what you wanted to do.
Well, indeed, of course, I love to hear you saying that, talking about management training. I know that once you got the question, a business school or the school of life, and to our relief, you answered business school. So, but of course, I would love to hear, what impact Vlerick had on you.
Gives you the courage because we're all very busy, right? Companies are very good at making you feel very busy and you're running from one to the other. And there's not enough time to think. And I think the business school had two big benefits. You had to decouple from the business and spend a number of hours, thinking about totally different stuff. And then the ideas come, you start to scribble down
more
ideas, etc.
Yeah.
A lot of hours. So not only are you being equipped, you also have time to think. And by the time I came out of the business school, yes, I had my toolkit ready to go, but I think the idea was also maturing. So I think that had two big benefits.
Okay, great to hear that. Well, I do hope, Tim, that you don't need a lot of optionality in the future of argenx. We do wish you loads of success for the future development of the company. And once more, very big congratulations on winning the Vlerick Award. And I'm really delighted to be able to present it to you. Let me ask for another warm applause for Tim Van Hauwermeiren.
Thank you.